25 minutes before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Thursday morning. The other day, we saw a car that was electric, completely electric, fully electric car. And we saw the car. We didn't hear the car because it was so quiet. Remember?
Yes.
Remember that car? And I remember, gosh, it doesn't seem like that long ago when people were, it was debatable thing. You know, why do we need that? And I was looking at some information to prepare for our next interview, and I didn't realize how it's really a win-win when you look at the efforts of those folks who are trying to clean up the air, clean up the environment in general. It's a win-win because, and before you jump on me for this, not only will you have cleaner air, but there are more jobs. Did you know this? On August 3rd, according to these notes, the Environmental Protection Agency announced the final rule for the Clean Power Plan. You might remember this was in the news. We already limit mercury, lead, and soot from fossil fuel-powered plants under the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's proposed Clean Power Plan. We can cut harmful carbon pollution by 30% below 2005 levels by 2030 from the biggest source, which is power plants accounting for nearly 40% of carbon. The reduction would usher in health benefits worth an estimated $55 to $93 billion by the year 2030, while combating climate change, which ultimately is already battering the bottom lines of many businesses across America. I just read you a full paragraph from the notes that were provided to me. In addition to that, there are some jobs. Some Florida jobs right here in Florida. On the phone is Steve Rutherford. He is, by the way, a Navy SEAL. So thank you for your service, Steve. He's listening on the line, on the phone rather. And he is a clean energy entrepreneur, and he's on the phone to talk about clean energy, Florida clean energy, and how the industry of clean energy can actually perhaps be your next job or your grandson's next job, depending on how old you are. Steve Rutherford. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Larry. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Tampa, Florida, just down the road.
Oh, excellent. Well, thank you for being on the air with us. Now, thank you for your service. Navy SEAL is always an impressive thing to know about somebody. So we could do a whole show probably asking questions about that.
Well, that was a former life of mine. I've since retired from the military, and you might say I saw the light.
and you are also an entrepreneur, a clean energy entrepreneur. Does that mean you've started a business? What is the business you started? I guess that's the best way to ask that.
Well, first off, thank you for the opportunity to talk about with this important plan. I started Tampa Energy Solutions in Tampa just after 2011, after I retired, and it is primarily a solar energy company. We service pretty much all of Central Florida, focusing mostly on Tampa, but we do go to the far reaches of Florida when the occasion calls for it. So we started with just a couple employees, and I'm really proud to say that because of the overwhelming support for solar from the people that are consuming it, realizing the potential and the value. We've actually doubled our size every year for the last 3 years. So yes, I think the statement you made earlier about clean energy jobs is actually correct. It is fueling a new market, a growing market, one that I think has dual benefit that you also alluded to, about creating jobs for people can be proud of, and they can work in it, they can make a good living, because I'll tell you this, none of my employees are making minimum wage right now. So it is something that they enjoy and they love doing.
Is the solar industry specifically a southern thing? In other words, because we have more sunlight here in Texas and Southern California, across the whole southern belt, I guess. Could Vermont get in on this or no?
Actually, every state in the country just about is involved in solar. I'd say it's rather unfortunate that Florida isn't leading the country in solar production when they have tremendous potential compared to most of the other states. Florida, I mean, we're number one when it comes to solar potential east of the Mississippi. But by ranking, we're well beyond. We're not even the top 10.
And why is that? Why is that?
Well, that's a great question. Most of it, I have to tell you, deals with leadership and policy here in Florida. We're actually behind New Jersey when it comes to number of solar installs. We have a tremendous opportunity here that I don't think has been fully realized, and I will say it's been unfortunate that there's been a tremendous amount of opposition. If you're tracking this particular topic in the news, in the newspapers, tremendous opposition from basically a resistance to change from some of the larger monopolies that are out there, and lack of support from Tallahassee.
The talking points normally associated with any energy conversation are: is it clean? Is it cheap? I don't think we've ever thrown in the talking point of will it create jobs, but there's the other talking point that will a new technology take away from the old technology pocketbooks. Is that the case on that fourth talking point, or would Exxon be in on this, and therefore they could make as much money from this as they do from oil?
Well, I can tell you this. At one point, BP had its own solar panel facility. So obviously somewhere along the line, they saw the value here. I think they've since sold off the asset because it wasn't making them, at the time, the double-digit profits that they had anticipated. But I'm sure at this point they're probably reconsidering their previous investments. So I think there's opportunity for all the major companies and small companies alike to profit and benefit and realize the greatness that renewable energies bring to the market here in Florida and across the United States as a whole.
We have the paper mills in Palatka. We have the coal-fired power plant in Crystal River. Are they using things to protect the badness from the emissions into the atmosphere, like those scrubbers and things like that?
It's my understanding. I'm not sure. Familiar with the specific plant that you're referring to, but the Clean Power Plan addresses all coal plants across the country. I think the scrubbers were something that came about more than 30 years ago when we realized that all these sulfur mercury emissions were having an immediate impact on the environment. And it's one of the things, I think it's one of the things that it's a great thing that you bring up. The immediate impact is something that people can see and realize when they, I used to swim in the river up where I was raised in Pennsylvania. We have a steel mill there. And, my parents didn't really care, but I swam in that river all the time. And probably, somewhere down the road, I may have been affected by all the acid rain and some of the other things that we were experiencing at the time. So those things were taken into account years ago. And the coal power plants, I say today, are probably cleaner than they've ever been. However, never have we before tackled the challenge of carbon and the impact of carbon. And I think it's more because people haven't seen the immediate impact to their local area. If one coal power plant shoots that gas up in the air and, it goes somewhere. And as long as it doesn't fall in our backyards, we have a tendency not to be concerned about it. But the truth is, it's falling in everyone's backyards, and I think it's more than time that we decide to do something about it.
But if politics is the ruler of all of these policies, and big money is influencing politics, is there a way for this technology to win out? I guess that's what it is. Kind of an interesting and almost disgusting thing at the same time that we are controlled by money interests when what would be best for everybody is if obviously we had a cleaner place and if we had jobs. I mean, that's an important thing too. How does the solar industry make jobs other than manufacturing the solar cells? Is there Would I have my energy in my house, for example, created on my roof or in some solar plant that I would have to pay and therefore keep up the, somebody else who knows how to do it better than I'll ever know how to do it?
Well, Larry, I think that's another great question. My customers, and we're an installation company, so those manufacturers of solar panels need, individuals like ourselves who are capable of carrying those panels and installing them at various different locations. And both rooftop solar and large-scale solar are vital to the future of Florida and our clean energy future as a whole. We specifically focus on the residential and commercial market in this region, and our guys on a daily basis are going to homeowners' specific houses, and as long as they have a roof that's got great solar potential, those homeowners are realizing the benefit that solar brings to them at a local level, and truthfully, that's also improving the energy security of the state and the nation as a whole, because now you're generating power locally rather than in a very single location manner. So if you for example, you talk about that coal fire plant, you want to take out, being a SEAL, we're always thinking about security. If you want to take out an area and impact them horribly with, by cutting off their electricity, you have one place to go to. But in many cases, when you have distributed power, it makes it more challenging to really disrupt the power supply, and we're able to improve the security while you're improving the environment. So,
Steve Rutherford is our guest. We need to take a little break, Steve, but just to reintroduce you real quickly, and also to ask you if you're okay with taking phone calls. I see the lines are lit up, and so I'll allow them through if you give me the okay. Are you okay with that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No problem.
Okay. So we'll take calls after the break. Steve Rutherford is not only an expert in solar power, he's a clean energy entrepreneur in general. He's talking about the Florida clean energy industry and what it means to us as far as jobs are concerned, as well as a cleaner environment. And he happens to have also served us as a Navy SEAL, which is pretty impressive. We'll take a little break and be right back with Steve Rutherford.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. We'll see more clouds than sun today with a shower and thunderstorm or two around, the high 86 to 90. Mostly cloudy tonight with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm, low 71 to 75. For tomorrow, times of clouds and sun with a shower and heavy thunderstorm or two around, high 86 to 90. For Saturday, a mix of sun and clouds with a couple of thunderstorms, mainly in the afternoon, the high 85 to 89. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
It's rodeo time in Ocala. The Great Ocala Shrine Rodeo stampedes back to town September 4th and 5th, 7:30 nightly. Witness America's #1 sport and the greatest show on dirt as cowboys ride to help children walk. 33 years of broncs, bulls, and babes. For tickets and information, call 352-402-8808. September 4th and 5th. Don't miss the Ocala Shrine Rodeo.
Oops, I'm sorry. 12 minutes before 10 o'clock. I guess if I push the button, you'll be able to hear me, right? 12 minutes before 10 o'clock. And let me go to the phones now. Steve Rutherford is on the phone. We're talking about clean energy, solar energy, especially how Florida could benefit from it, especially in the jobs world. So, Steve, thank you for waiting through the break. And as I promised, we do have some listeners trying to get through. Are you still there, Steve?
I'm still there.
Okay, all right, good. All right, good morning. You're on the air with Steve Rutherford. Thank you for calling in for waiting.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Rutherford. We have a few homes where I live that have solar panels set up. And my biggest question to you is, how long does a solar panel last? And the next one would be damage to solar panels, whether it be hail or we have some crazy birds that like to drop things from an altitude or whatever, and they would hit the panel. And that's what I'm getting at. And the other thing is, if you put the solar panel up, you got to have some sort of a connection still to your utility, because in the wintertime you got a lot more darkness than you have sunlight. And I'm just curious about some of the aspects to that. And one other thing is, do you have to really clean them? Because you can get a soot coating and everything, dirt on it from rain and everything else. I'll hang up and listen to those answers.
All right, good questions. Thank you. Appreciate the call.
Hey, thank you, sir, for the call and for the questions and for the opportunity to kind of promote what we're doing here. The panels that we use, one of the main companies that we use, actually it's an American company that has been in business for over 40 years. They have panels that actually have been installed in the 80s that are still producing almost 80% of the energy they did from day one.
Wow.
So when you make an install on a solar system, you can expect a lifetime of value out of that solar system. So we're seeing, I mean, obviously I don't have the 40-year history myself, but the companies that we're working with do. We're seeing tremendous value. And I think what you're actually seeing is, even the large, even though we have a lot of opposition in the solar market, the private solar market out here, the large energy companies are actually seeing the value, and the cost is getting competitive with coal and some of the other materials that you've been used to seeing on the energy market. And they're investing in solar because they're seeing a long-term payoff in investing in solar. You mentioned about damage. Again, the panel that we're using, I can literally walk on top of the panel. I'm over 230 pounds. I can walk on that panel. It's made of a tempered glass, like your automobile glass. All right, so they are extremely durable, and they can handle a lot of damage. And as you've seen, where cars can drive down the road, you'll hit birds and other things, and sometimes that window won't even shatter. It is susceptible to damage. I mean, if you get a hurricane force wind, you can break a panel. But remember, or maybe you're not familiar, but when we put a solar system on a roof, we are putting up 20 or 30 panels at a time on a single house. So one panel is not going to significantly degrade a homeowner's particular system. So, and as far as cleaning goes, we have the winter time where we have months without rain here. The panels get dirty, but I have some friends that have been working at the DeSoto plant with us, a 25 megawatt system down there. One of the biggest expense they had was cleaning, but they realized they didn't even need to clean the panels. They stopped cleaning the panels, from what I understand at this point, because even with the dirt and soot on them, now I won't say if you get coverage such as leaves or something like that, that's a different story, but soot and dirt, or not soot, but dust and those things don't significantly degrade the amount of power that a solar panel can produce. And frankly, if you wait a month for the rainfall, it pretty much takes care of everything. So I don't recommend to my customers to clean the panels at all. If they do, they just use a mild detergent to be able to do so.
Huh. There was a story earlier this year, and I had to look it up so I could just read it rather than trying to do it from memory. And this is what one of the paragraphs in the Daytona Beach News Journal says. Okay, and this was from July 22nd of this year, 2015. It says, earlier this year, a coalition of environmental groups, businesses, conservatives, and solar companies known as Floridians for Solar Choice advanced a constitutional amendment for the 2016 ballot that would let homeowners and businesses generate up to 2 megawatts of solar power without any government regulation. But it is strongly opposed by the major utility companies and public utilities, which are run by many of Florida's cities. And that's all I'm reading. And I want to tell you about, we had this discussion on the air. And when I first read it, I thought, well, why shouldn't I be able to do what these people want me to be able to do? And people who are more knowledgeable about electricity in general called and kind of made me change my mind. That made me think that it sounds like it's not a fight whether we should or shouldn't have solar, but whether we should or shouldn't be able to do it ourselves. And the argument is that because of the nature of electricity and how unpredictable it can be, it would be better in the hands of an already existing company or experts like who do I pay now? The electric utility company I pay, whoever I pay.
City of Ocala.
City of Ocala in my case, yeah. So
right.
So what is your thought on that? I saw it both ways, and when I first read the story, I said, yeah, every man for himself. And then I realized, I could be ruining my computers. I could be putting the wrong amount of electricity into my appliances.
Well, Larry, thank you. That's a great topic. It's one that has been getting a lot of attention of late. The Floridians for Solar Choice sponsored the amendment, and I will tell you, I specifically support it. It is one of the only ways that we're going to be able to keep pace with how the rest of the country is actually producing energy with renewables. If you think about renewables, right now we have renewables on homes here, but albeit a very small amount. Our energy companies are able to adapt, especially with natural gas plants. They can quickly adapt to power generation losses on the grid. We have a national grid, not a local grid. We have power coming from across the regions not necessarily only in your backyard. They're not disconnected. They're very much connected, and it's a very resilient grid. So adding solar, there's a lot of discussions about how the impact of larger scale solar is going to be, but truthfully, adding solar is not going to significantly change the way the grid works. The grid has to make changes all the time. Loss of power plants, more plants coming on, they trade energy. Solar, if they talk about the intermittency of solar, truthfully, we can count on solar coming on and off every day. It's a lot less intermittent than people could think. As far as the ballot goes and how it's going to impact us, you right now, say if you were to buy solar in Florida, or if you were to buy a solar system in Florida, you wanted to put it on your farm, all right? You got a lot of horse country up there. We got a lot of citrus growers who had the greening issue.
Right.
They can't put it on their farm right now and choose how much money they want to make with that solar system. They have one buyer right now. And as you know as well as I, if you have one buyer, your return on your investment is set. All right. But if I have a farm and I have a factory like Amazon or something next to me, and they want to buy everything that I can make, I can sell it to Amazon at a little bit higher rate maybe and make a little better return on my investment. If you don't have the freedom to be able to do that, you have a single buyer, therefore the investment in solar is really going to be minimized. So that's really the largest impact I'm seeing to not being able to move forward with that initiative and push solar. So
if each state has their own rules about solar and they want to implement new programs, do they have any fear that the federal government is going to override the state decisions?
Well, if you look at the Clean Power Plan, kind of getting back to the main theme of what we were talking about, the Clean Power Plan is talking about changing the carbon emissions over the next decade. I mean, it's not something that you have to do tomorrow, but it's giving the states a great deal of liberty and freedom to set their own goals, their own plans. I mean, one of the things that they have in other states is renewable portfolio standards. We don't have one here. We can't carbon trade here. We can't offset our coal production with buying solar production from another state, even though we're getting power from the other state. So I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, you have.
Let me squeeze in another phone call. Thank you for waiting. You're on the air with Steve Rutherford.
This is Sonny again. One of the other problems I think you have is the pairing up of the system with the utility as to what the voltage and everything that's being put out by your solar system. And I think that's something that has to be looked into, because you can have the conflict in voltages, because your normal stuff runs at either 110 or 208 or 220, and that difference can actually create fires over the long run. And the other thing that bothers me is that you also have to conform to the utility requirements and regulations. I mean, it's one thing, to have the solar power, but it's another thing to have an ATS switch that is compatible with the existing systems, and also for example, Y and D transformers. The secondary voltages can vary significantly.
I think we've got less than a minute left. I don't mean to cut you off there, but Steve, do you want to address that real quick, and then we'll get a website?
Yeah, Larry, thank you very much, and appreciate the question again. UL 1741 is a utility standard. It basically says if you're putting a solar system on the grid, it has to conform to utility standards. The engineering for that has been worked out. It's been resolved. Basically, a solar system will shut down if it finds that it's out of phase with the utilities. So most of those engineering challenges have been worked out. So
okay, Steve, thank you. Real quickly, do you have a website?
I do. TampaBaySolar.com. Really simple.
Easy.
Hope people will come look at it.
TampaBaySolar.com. Steve Rutherford, thank you so much. That was interesting, and I apologize for cutting the listener off. We'll be right back.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. The head of the EPA seeing the toxic river spill firsthand, visiting Farmington, New Mexico a day after speaking to residents in Durango, Colorado, saying
new samples from the Animas River show the water quality is improving.
The levels have returned to pre-event conditions.
On Wednesday, Gina McCarthy visited the spill site, calling it heartbreaking. She also met with Governor John Hickenlooper to coordinate the spill response.
Fox Radio's Tanya J. Powers. Blasts at a warehouse leaving 50 people dead in Tianjin, China, a dozen of them firefighters. 700 people hurt.
Some victims are hit by flying shrapnel. Among the damage, thousands of new cars destroyed. Tianjin, the main shipping gateway to factories in the Beijing area.
Fox Radio's Alistair Wanklin and a Kentucky clerk's office refusing to give a gay couple a marriage license in defiance of a federal judge's order. Fox News, we report. You decide.
Okay, so let me see if I get this straight. You want the truck with the most towing power, the most payload, that accelerates faster, stops quicker, handles better than ever, that works smarter, is loaded with a ton of new technology and tools, has best-in-class gas mileage, that doesn't rust, and has the government's highest overall safety rating, 5 stars. Have I got that right? That's all you want, right? Everything? Okay. What color? This is the high-strength military-grade aluminum alloy body Ford F-150, and this changes everything. Built Ford Tough.
Towing when properly equipped with available 3.5-liter EcoBoost V6 4x2. Payload when properly equipped with available 5.0-liter V8 4x2. Class is full-size pickups under 8,500 pounds GVWR. EPA estimated fuel economy rating of 19 city, 26 highway, 22 combined MPG, 2.7-liter EcoBoost V6 4x2. Actual mileage will vary. Government 5-star safety ratings are part of the U.S. Department of Transportation's new car assessment program, safercar.gov.
Today in Florida Ag News on the Southeast AgNet, USDA's National Agriculture Statistics Service has released its first crop estimate for the year, and the 2015 cotton crop is down from last year. Philip Prilliman has the numbers.
Area planted to cotton in 2015 is estimated at 8.9 million acres, down 1% or 100,000 acres from June, and down 19% from 2014. Harvested area is expected to total 7.89 million acres, down 16% from last year. Production is forecast at 13.1 million bales, down 20% from last year. Yield is forecast at 795 pounds per acre, down 43 pounds from last year. As of August 2nd, 57% of the cotton acreage was rated in good to excellent condition, compared with 53% at this time last year. 57% of the crop had set bolls by August 2nd, 8 percentage points behind last year and 7 percentage points behind the 5-year average. In parts of the southeast, growing conditions were favorable during the spring, but with less rainfall over the summer, mild to moderate drought conditions have developed across some of the major cotton-producing areas. Cotton production in Georgia is forecast at 2.1 million bales, down 18% from last year. In Alabama, production is forecast at 500,000 bales, down 23% from 2014. Florida production is expected to total 145,000 bales, 24% below last year. In summary, all cotton production in the United States is forecast at 13.1 million bales in 2015, down 20% from last year. This is Anthony Prilliman with the USDA's National Agricultural Statistics Service.
Thanks, Philip. And to hear this story and more, go to our website, southeastagnet.com. Randall Wiseman, Southeast AgNet.
Get it for less at the DIY Home Center outlet. Get top quality real wood cabinets the same or less than the big box stores are selling the cheap stuff. And that's not all. Drywall screws big box stores are $6.47 a pound. At DIY, only $4.99. Plus, DIY has the largest selection of mobile home parts and accessories anywhere. From carpet to doors, get the DIY supplies you need for less. The DIY Home Center outlet. We are your building material closeout store. 2191 Northwest 10th Street, just 2 miles east of I-75.
Hi, I'm Seth with AA Lock, Dock, and Security. Have you ever thought about the lock